Okay, let's get started. Today I'm going to talk about Migrate API in Drupal 8 core. My name is Sven Decabooter. I'm a freelance Drupal developer, and I've been doing Drupal for over 10 years now. Mostly working for Dazzle, which is a web agency in Brussels, Belgium. And I'm also president of the local Belgian Drupal user group, which is also currently organizing a Drupal camp in Ghent, Belgium, where Dave Hall also did a remote session. Unfortunately, I can't make it there, but I'm very glad to be here instead. You can find me on Drupal.org or Twitter. Like I said, I'm living and working in Belgium, more specifically in the beautiful city of Ghent, which is a really nice place that you should visit if you have the chance. But currently I'm staying in Chicago for 3 months because my girlfriend is doing an internship there as a postdoc at Northwestern University. And so I thought I'd came along and spend some time in Chicago, which is a really nice place. First, a little plug maybe. The company I'm working for, Dazzle, is looking for some international partners, so if anyone is interested in working remotely with some really great Belgian guys and girls, you should definitely get in touch. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about Migrate API in Drupal 8 core. Well, not only in core, in Drupal 8 in general. This is an outline of the presentation. I will go over the functionality that is available in Drupal 8, some of the basic concepts. I will provide a few demos and explain what the contrib landscape is looking like in Drupal 8 for Migrate, and give you some links on where you can find stuff and how you can help improve the Migrate system in Drupal 8. If I have some time, I might dive into how to write your own plugins, but I don't know if we'll have enough time for that. Okay, first, let's see how Migrate actually ended up in Drupal 8 core. The Migrate module suite became, was started by Mike Ryan and Moshe Weitzman in Drupal 7. It was a contrib module, and it allowed for robust migrations from external systems to put your data into Drupal. I'm sure some of you have used it before in Drupal 7. It also had an add-on module called Drupal to Drupal data migration, which allowed you to migrate from Drupal 5 or 6 to Drupal 7. And in the early development of Drupal 8, that would have been around DrupalCon Prague, there was some discussion about the usual upgrade path from Drupal versions. Usually you would run update.php and pray that everything would work more or less. It was decided that we should have a better system in Drupal 8 to do upgrades, and then people started looking into getting the migrate concepts from Drupal 7 into Drupal 8 to provide a more robust upgrade path that can be more easily tested and performed in phases if necessary. And it allows you to migrate directly from Drupal 6 to Drupal 8, which is also a great thing. Otherwise, you would have to go to Drupal 7 first if you are running your old Drupal 6 website still, which would be quite a pain. So with the release of Drupal 8.0, 2 modules were added to Drupal 8 core, being the Migrate and the Migrate Drupal module. The Migrate module provides general API functionality, whereas the Migrate Drupal module provides a specific Drupal 6 to Drupal 8 and Drupal 7 to Drupal 8 migration support. And Drupal 8.0 came with quite a few plugin classes and migration templates to easily move your stuff over from Drupal 6 and Drupal 7 to Drupal 8. And in the latest current release of Drupal 8.1, there were some more bug fixes, more default migrations, more support for internationalization, things like that. And another module was added to core as well, the Migrate Drupal UI module, which provides an easy UI to perform the migration instead of having to use Drush if you prefer more visual UI. And also quite an architectural change where migrations are now plugins and are no longer config entities. If you're just using the system, you won't really see a lot of that, but it's really nice to see that more standard Drupal 8 patterns are used going forward. It is important to note that the Migrate modules in Drupal 8 are marked as experimental. They still need quite a lot of testing in the wild because they were written to be as ready as possible for the Drupal 8 release, but not a lot of people were already actually migrating their sites over, so there were still some problems with the system. But the base functionality is pretty robust. So in the current Drupal 8.1 release, it is still tagged as being alpha experimental, but hopefully in 8.2 this will go to the beta stability level. That is still up for discussion, I think. And once it reaches the beta stage, it should still go into a release candidate state before it is considered a stable part of Drupal 8 core. So I don't know when that will be, but we'll see. So what exactly will be migrated if you install the Drupal Migrate module on your Drupal 8 website? It will allow you to move core content and configuration over from Drupal 6 and Drupal 7 into your Drupal 8 site. Specifically for modules that ship with Drupal 8, even if those modules were still in contrib space in Drupal 6 or Drupal 7. So for example, your Drupal 6 site, which has CCK installed, image link, image cache, things like that, all the old stuff, that would be migrated over to Drupal 8 to the new content types, image styles functionality. Although there is still some functionality missing, maybe most importantly views, there hasn't been a lot of work on that yet. But I think in most cases, if you are building your Drupal 8 website, you will have to do some rethinking anyway, and you might want to rebuild your views. And of course, this focuses on core, so the migration templates that are provided in Drupal 8 core only provide functionality for Drupal core and not for contrib modules. So if you are the author of a contrib module for Drupal 8, you should write your own migration to move over people from the older versions of your module. Okay, so let's have a closer look at some of the basic concepts, having shown how the migrations are configured and defined and things like that. Basically, each migration is defined as a YAML config file. So any module, be it a Drupal core or a contrib module or your own custom module, can specify one or more migration config files, They use the YAML syntax, like I said. This is a widely used syntax in Drupal 8, so you should familiarize yourself with it. And when you create this migration configuration file, it's important to have a clear view of what the data is that you're migrating, because each object or each database table or whatever will most likely be its own migration, so that you can move over specific sets of data one at a time. So this migration YAML file provides you with, you should provide configuration in the YAML file, specifically the migration pipeline, which defines the source, process, and destination of the migration, which I'll go into more detail later on. And you provide some metadata and dependencies for your migration. So this is an example of a migration YAML file. This will migrate Drupal 6 files to your Drupal 8 website. Note the source, process, and destination definitions. So this is configuration that is in Drupal 8 core and will allow you to move over your Drupal 6 files. So the basic concept of how you would migrate to Drupal 8 if your source is Drupal 6 or Drupal 7 site, so basically the upgrade path. Like I said, a lot of migration configuration files are already in core. If you install contrib modules, you should check if they also come with some migration files. And then you would only need to write maybe some custom code for the missing bits and pieces. Hopefully that shouldn't be too much, but it all depends on your setup, of course. Also, it depends how much you want to migrate your site one-on-one to Drupal 8, or if you want to re-architecture things. But basically the process should go like this, that you prepare your website for migration. Make sure to enable all modules in Drupal 8 that are enabled in your source, at least the ones you want to migrate over. Then you would actually run the migration through Thrush or through the upgrade UI, and then review what happened, see if some things are missing or not going correctly, and then repeat until everything works perfectly. Okay, so this slide goes into more, it actually says what I already mentioned. So it's important to start from a fresh Drupal 8 installation if you want to make your life a bit easier. It is possible to migrate over if you already have configured your Drupal 8 content types and things like that, but you might run into some trouble. Then you should define a DB connection to your old Drupal 6 or 7 site through your d8 settings.php. And like I said, make sure all the required modules are enabled. Because, for example, if you have a forum in Drupal 6, but you don't enable the forum module in Drupal 8, then it will migrate nothing. It won't automatically enable the modules for you, so be aware of that. Then you run the migration and you review what the problems are. On the other hand, if you are migrating from another system, like a legacy CMS or some exported data coming in CSV or XML files or things like that, you can also use the Migrate module in Drupal 8 core. In that case, you would most likely create a custom module to manually craft your migration. You might want to make use of some of the contrib modules that I'll go into detail in a few minutes to help you. And then basically you create the config YAML files, set up your whole migration and perform the same steps like I mentioned before. All right, maybe that's a bit theoretical at this point. I've prepared a little video to show you what a very basic Drupal 6 to Drupal 8 migration would look like. So basically I have a freshly installed Drupal 8 site. I will execute a migration through Drush, and it will retrieve all the migration configuration that is tagged with the migration tag Drupal 6, and start fetching the data, processing it, and importing it into my Drupal 8 website. So let's see if this works. Yeah, so we have a fresh Drupal 8 site with one content type. I'm not seeing the video here, but, and one user. Then we go over to our nice old Drupal 6 website. We have a few story content types with some images, some tags, a few basic fields. So these are CCK fields probably. And on the old site we have a few users as well. So then spinning up my command line, doing the Drush migrate upgrade command. This command might be a bit out of date because the video is a bit older. It's performing all the upgrades. And there we are. If we check our Drupal 8 website now, we can see that our content types are moved over, our nodes are moved over. So as you can see, everything is there. Okay, so that's a quick demonstration. Of course, your own migration might take some more time to set up, and there might be some more problems. But this is the general idea. I also have a quick demo of a custom migration, which uses migrations that are defined in the Migrate Plus module, which comes with some examples. Basically, it create some data in your MySQL database, specifically beer-related data, and we'd like to import it into our Drupal 8 site, which already has the basic content type. So let's see how that works. So we have our new Drupal 8 to install. There is no content yet available, but here we have the source data in the MySQL database. Just some random data, users, and some content. In this case, I have installed the Migrate Plus module to use the command line tools. We see the status of the migration, which is idle. Then I do the migrate import command, specifically migrating the beer group. Everything gets processed. If we check the status again, we can see that the imports have actually happened. And if we go to our Drupal 8 website now, we see the content there. As well as the users who have been migrated over as well. And the taxonomy terms. So the setup for this example is, this is a screenshot of it. So basically, you have a few migration YAML files in your module, and they define where the data is coming from, how it's processed, and where it's stored in Drupal 8. All right, next I'll show a bit of an overview of the contrib modules that are available in Drupal 8 to assist you with performing migrations. There's the Migrate Tools module, which just provides general purpose Drush commands to perform your migrations via Drush instead of using the UI. And it also has a basic UI for performing general migrations, so not Drupal to Drupal migrations, but regular migrations, like the one I showed in the last demo. I don't know if that will go into core at some point or not, but for now you use the Migrate Tools module. Then there's the Drupal Upgrade module, which originally in Drupal 8.0 also had the UI, but this moved into core, so now it only provides you with Drush commands to perform upgrades between Drupal versions. These commands might become part of core Drush at some point, but I have no real information on that. And then there's a Migrate Plus module, which you should probably also install, especially if you're doing custom migrations. It provides extra functionality, for example, allowing you to group migrations together, bundling them together, as well as some XML and JSON parser plugins, which allow you to easily import from file-based sources. And it also provides two modules with a lot of examples and a lot of documentation, so you should really look into that to see how things work. Then there's also the Migrate Manifest module. This module allows you to define manifest files. They basically allow you to specify a list of specific migrations that you want to run, if you don't want to run everything all at once, if you want to pick and choose. This could help you. It allows you to also provide some configuration, things like that. And there's a module also by Mike Ryan called WordPress Migrate, which allows you to export WordPress blog export files and migrate them into Drupal. Currently it's in dev release, so I'm not sure how stable it works, but if you want to move over your WordPress blog, you can try it out. Okay, so I already mentioned the Migrate configuration files. Let's have a closer look at them. So in Drupal 8 core, you would find the configuration files most likely in each module in a directory called migration_templates. In the latest version of, in the latest best practices, this should be just migrations, this folder, but I think most of the folders in Drupal 8 are still using the old structure. Yeah, so basically the Drupal plugin system will find these YAML files for each enabled module, load them as a configuration for a migration plugin, and execute them when the Drupal to Drupal migration is performed. So here's an example. If we have the Drupal 8 node module, we have d6_node migration template in there, which provides all the info that is needed to migrate the basic Drupal 6 nodes over to Drupal 8. In case you are writing your custom migrations, you should definitely use the Migrate Plus contrib module. and then you would create your migration configuration YAML files in the config/install folder directory, or they could also be generated dynamically through a UI or Drush, in case you want to give the user some input. In this particular case, the Migrate Plus module creates config entities out of your migration plugin definitions to allow it to have an easier way, a cleaner way to discover all the custom migrations that you have, as well as provide persistence between your migrations, such as the database connection and things like that. Let's see, anything else here? No, so you just, in your custom module, put your YAML files on config install, and when you enable the module, they should be available. This is an example file for a custom module. This is just a Migrate Plus module. So basically the YAML file structure is exactly the same as in Drupal core. So what goes into these Migrate config files? Like I said before, there is some identifying data in there. It should have an ID, a unique identifier. It can have a label to give it a human readable name, and it can have some tags to group them together. If you install the Migrate Plus module, you can also use the migration groups definition in here. And then you specify your source, process, and destination configuration. And lastly, you should also define dependencies, because these could either be required dependencies or optional dependencies. Your migration configuration might depend on something else. For example, if you are going to be migrating profile field data, you should depend on the user migration, because you need a user to assign profile fields to. So the user migration, would then run first before the profile field migration would run. So once again, this example where you see the source, process, and destination configuration. So these work as Drupal 8. These are all Drupal 8 plugins. So they use the standard Drupal 8 plugin system. You could, in your configuration file, you would define which source plugin to use to provide you with the raw data for your source. You would specify which process plugin or multiple process plugins to use for each property in your data to manipulate it and prepare it for import. And then you specify which destination plugin to use, meaning what Drupal 8 target will you save your data as. This could be a content entity, could be a configuration entity, could be a plugin, or could be something custom. So if we look a bit closer into the source plugins, Drupal core comes with a few of those. They should provide you with unprocessed rows of source data, which can be retrieved from different sources. Could be just a SQL database, could be Drupal specific, could be a CSV file, XML, JSON, etc. The main purpose of these plugins is to iterate over each row and return the specific properties that are going to be needed in your migration, and push those to the next part, being the process plugin. The process plugins will describe how the source data will be manipulated. In this case, this is a really basic example. In the simplest form, it will just copy the source data to your destination. In this case, if you have the site name variable or data, it will move it to the name variable in Drupal 8. But there are some more advanced process plugins available in Drupal 8 core, or you can write your own if you want to. So basically how you define this in your YAML file is first you specify as the key the target property you're going to use, and then you provide one or an array of process plugins. So in this case, we get our D6 source raw data. It gets feed into the first plugin name, process plugin. This will process it, will we'll push it over to the second plugin, which will also do some manipulations on the data, and then the data will be assigned to the D8 target destination property. So next up, there are a few examples of process plugins that are available in Drupal 8 core. I'll quickly go over a few to see, so you can have an idea of what they do and how they look like. One is the default value process plugin, which is pretty simple. It sets a fixed default value. This is useful if you are not sure if your source data will actually contain something. So in this case, if the source data language value is empty, it will just provide a default value UND, which will be pushed to the destination. So in case there is no language available in the source, your Drupal 8 value will be UND. Here's another example of a process plugin, the static map. This provides just a static map of source destination values. Basically, it will search the map for a given source and return the destination. So in this case, if your source value is 1, then the destination will be preview. So in this case, this example will migrate over Drupal 6 view modes. In Drupal 6 they were numeric, and Drupal 8 they have a machine readable name. So this is an easy way to migrate over this kind of data. Another example, which is available in Drupal core, is the concat plugin, which will basically take an array of source properties and concatenate them into a single destination. So in the screenshot to the left, you can see in our source database, we have 3 different source fields, and in Drupal 8 we want them concatenated together with an underscore in between. So we just use the code, which is highlighted in red, to concatenate those values. Then a more complex process plugin maybe is a migration process plugin. This uses data from previously run migrations within the flow, and it helps you to keep consistency between your data objects. So Drupal 8 Migrate will keep mapping tables where it stores destination and source IDs or values to be able to link the old object to the new object from the source to the destination. So if from your Drupal 7 side or from your Drupal 6 side, if you have a vocabulary ID 1 to 3, then the D7 taxonomy vocabulary migration will migrate this, for example, to a vocabulary ID 456 in Drupal 8. it will store those two values. So we'll store those two values in a mapping table. And then later on, if you are migrating, for example, a taxonomy term, in Drupal 6 the taxonomy term has ID 1 to 3, but in Drupal 8 you want to give it a new ID, obviously, otherwise your data is no longer as it should be. This mapping table, or this migration plugin, will get the data from the mapping table. So to the left you can see a screenshot of how these mapping tables look like in Drupal 8. So those were a few examples of process plugins. You can check the handbook pages for more examples on that, or write your own if you would want to. And then finally, we also have destination plugins available. As the name suggests, these types of plugins specify where the data will be saved in Drupal 8 or how the data will be saved in Drupal 8. A few of those are readily available. You can just save to a Drupal 8 entity destination, content entity, or a config entity, or you can create your custom destination if you're storing your data in a different way in Drupal 8, which is probably not recommended. So here's a small recap of the things I discussed earlier. If you are using the Migrate system in Drupal 8, you should be familiar with the YAML files. In Drupal 8 core, they are stored in migrations directory. If you write your own modules, put them in config/install. Give them the migrate plus .migration prefix, so the migrate plus module will automatically find them and group them together. And these YAML files describe the migration pipeline which is to be executed. Where do I get the data, how to process the data, and how to save the data. So how can you help? If you would like to get involved in migrations in Drupal 8, it would be very helpful to take your old Drupal 6 or Drupal 7 site, install it locally, and just try it out, see how it works. See if you can find any bugs or weird edge cases, and report those. If they are Drupal core related, you can report them in the core issue queue that is linked to the slides. If they are related to contrib modules that you have installed, you should check the issue queue there, of course. And if you have your own, if you maintain your own Drupal 8 modules, or you wish to help modules that you like to use or things like that, be sure to test it, see how things work and how you can help. If you would like some extra help, be sure to go to IRC on Freenode. Drupal Migrate has a lot of experts that know how this stuff works, and they can surely help you. Then some resources, some links that might be valuable if you're trying to get started. Be sure to read the documentation on Drupal.org on how to upgrade from older versions of Drupal, or how the general Migrate API works. And download the Migrate Plus module and browse through the code of the Migrate example module, which provides a lot of documentation. You should also check out the blog by Mike Ryan. It has 2 URLs. I think the second one is his current blog. And if you are on Twitter, follow Migrate Drupal handle for regular updates on the Migrate initiative. So if there are big improvements or big things that need to be worked on, they get announced there. Writing your own plugins. I don't know if we have time for that. Maybe not. I'll put the slides online, you can check it out. Basically, it's if you are familiar with how to write Drupal 8 plugins, this shouldn't be a real issue. You define some classes, you implement some methods, and go from there. Let's see, are there any questions? Things I should elaborate on. Yeah?
Is backup moving into this module? Like it used to be backup and migrate. Are they going to put the backup?
The backup migrate module. That's a separate module that is not really linked to the migrate module itself.
But it's doing that. So it's not, you're not going to have any kind of backup.
No, so there's the backup migrate module in Drupal 7 and 6, I guess, which just basically takes your database and you can download it or put it on S3. That's what you're talking about, right?
Or CSV
or CSV, yeah, I don't know if it does that. But that's something else in the migrate module, which is just to migrate from different sources. Yeah, so the backup migrate module, I think, is mostly aimed to get your data out and put it somewhere else. Which is, could be the same concept, but I think it's more for real backup purposes, like you would do computer backups rather than migrating over data and manipulating it. I don't know if they have it in Drupal 8, the backup migrate module. But it's a slightly different use case. Yeah.
If you're dealing with a Drupal 6 module that no longer exists, so it has a Drupal 8 version, where would you put the migrate code for that? And things like there used to be modules that provide their own custom node types that clearly aren't necessary anymore, but you need some kind of code to migrate from that into a normal core node type. Where would you put that?
That's a good question. I haven't run into that. I don't know what the best practice would be. Maybe, I don't know, create your own T6 module name _ migrate module for Drupal 8 then, which provides only the migrate files. I don't know if that's maybe not a bit overkill, but if it's a widely used module, then it could be handy to.
I don't know how widely used it is. It's on my blog, that's all I know.
Any other questions, comments? All right, then I guess it's time for lunch. Thanks a lot. Hope you enjoyed the session, and thanks for watching.